So I hear you like Star Wars, and I hear you like facts. Well, here are 5 awesome facts that I found out about Star Wars Episode 1, Phantom Menace. So hope you enjoy. Let's just jump right into it. At number 5, during the first week of the first trailer's release for the actual Phantom Menace, many theaters reported up to 75% of audience paying for the full price of their current movie that they went to see, and then walking out after Star Wars Episode 1 trailer was actually shown. This is insane to even think that this makes sense, but I understand why, because think of all people who were so hyped. Back then, the internet wasn't nearly as popular as it is now, so people were so hyped to see whatever glimpses they could find of actual Star Wars Episode 1, the return of the big bad that they remember back when they were kids, So I can kind of understand this, but I can also see, why would you pay that much, bud? Get your money back or something, jeez. Now for number 4, I found out that Liam Neeson actually convinced George Lucas to keep a scene where Qui-Gon Jinn puts his hand on Anakin's mother's shoulder. Now, Lucas thought that would be out of character for Qui-Gon to do, specifically because he is a Jedi. Though Neeson thought there should be an emotional connection between the two characters, and then once in an interview, Neeson actually defended his own actions, saying, "It may be Star Wars, but we have to put a little something in there for the adults." Oh, Liam, you dog, you. Now at number 3, did you know that rapper Tupac had pressed to be in the Phantom Menace? Though he died before he got his chance, it has been speculated that he was supposed to play the part of Mace Windu. But of course, we have actual no knowledge to what he would have played as, and it seems that Mace Windu was actually specifically written as an African American because Samuel L. Jackson was cast to play him. So who do you think Tupac was supposed to be? Let me know in the comments below. At number 2, this one is just crazy to think, but there is only one shot in the entire film where there is no visual effects added, and that shot is actually the poison gas pouring into the vent in the very beginning of when they're in the meeting room with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. It's so crazy to think that out of every shot in this entire film, only one was not digitally created. It just goes to show you just how much Lucas really wanted to push that CGI, and whether, I hear people who love the CGI, I hear people who hate the CGI, and of course not all the CGI has aged well, but, it was different times. It was the early 2000s. Actually, it was the late 90s, wasn't it? Damn. How old am I again? Where am I? What year is it? Now this one is not only just a cool fact, but it's also kind of an Easter egg too. So there is actually a reason why Watto is always flying around instead of walking. It turns out he is crippled. If you look closely, his one foot is longer than the other. He also talks out of the side of his mouth because one of his broken tusks actually causes him to slur his words. This was originally written into the script, but of course it was taken out with all the cuts and whatever they had to make for the actual film. But now I bet every time you watch this film, after watching this video of course, you're probably going to notice it every single time. So there you go. What's this? It's not the end of the video. It turns out I have an extra fact for you. I bet you guys are practically jittery with excitement. I'm adding this because this fact actually blew my mind, because I hadn't really noticed it before, and it's something that you think would be obvious, but it turns out that Darth Maul only has 3 lines in this entire film. Yep, I'm serious. Go watch it again. 3 lines. That's all he has. How did I never notice this before? Do you like Star Wars Attack of the Clones? And do you like facts? Well, here are 5 facts about Star Wars Attack of the Clones. Let's begin. Starting at number 5. When Anakin has a conversation with Senator Amidala, otherwise known as Padme, the camera pans to their shadows as they talk. Now, Anakin's shadow actually resembles that of Darth Vader. Now, it would seem that Lucas would have used some of his famous digitally editing effects that he always does to achieve this specific effect. At least that's what you think, right? Turns out, no. In fact, that shadow is completely real. There was no digital effects done to it at all. Although it is a little Easter egg, it's still an interesting fact nonetheless. For number 4, an early concept of the film had a few different choices on who should be the main villain. There was even talks of Darth Maul returning. Though Count Dooku was eventually chosen, it is interesting when you hear he could have actually been a she. That's right, Dooku may have been a female Sith who may have lured Anakin to the dark side with more than just lust for power, if you know what I mean. Though this didn't happen, the character was eventually reincarnated as Asajj Ventress, and that's one of the antagonists we see in the Clone Wars. But personally, I think that this would have been really interesting. Imagine a somewhat strange love triangle going on between Anakin, Padme, and this female Sith. Padme would represent the light and purity, and the female Sith would represent dark and slutiness. Is that a thing? Yeah, we'll just go with that. It's just an interesting concept to go with, and it'd really make Anakin split and choose which way he'd go. And eventually, we'd realize he would go with the dark side. It'd be a nice little way to personify the light and the dark. But of course, that's just my opinion on this. Would you have liked to see this? Let me know in the comments below. At number 3, we have a very interesting one to me personally. According to Star Wars canon, the Tusken Raiders who kidnapped Anakin's mother in the film were actually paid off by Count Dooku. Now, Dooku did this because he was ordered by Darth Sidious to do it. Of course, he's not gonna, disobey his own master. Though Dooku didn't understand why Sidious would tell him to kidnap this random slave, he did what he was supposed to do. Little did Dooku know, in kidnapping Anakin's mother, he would be placing the foundation upon the creation of his own successor, Darth Vader. We only truly see the rage inside of Anakin when he kills all the Tusken Raiders. So, in a weird, twisted way, Dooku kind of created Darth Vader, or at least planted the seeds that would eventually be Darth Vader. And the craziest part about it, he had no idea he was doing it. At number 2, I had to put this here just because, although it's probably the one fact on here that everyone has heard of already, it's still kind of an interesting fact if you haven't heard it, so I decided to throw it on here. Being Sam Jackson has its perks. His character, known as Mace Windu, was supposed to have a standard blue lightsaber. Well, Sam didn't like that idea. No sirree Bob. So he asked George Lucas if he could have a purple lightsaber to match his favorite color. Now at first, George wasn't too keen on this because he really didn't like having his formula messed with. He did eventually give in to the actor's request. The rest of the lightsaber is pretty much just customized by Sam. And if you look at it, it's like gold and silver, so you can tell it's pretty pimped out. And on that lightsaber hilt that Sam Jackson held in the movie was engraved 4 letters. BAMF, which of course is an acronym for something, but I'll let you figure that out on your own. Last but not least, I have a simple question for you. Do you guys like Jar Jar Binks? Yes, you do? I thought you would, because he was the one who stood in for Padme and pushed the motion to give supreme powers to Palpatine. That's right, Mr. Binks is arguably the worst character in Star Wars, and he's partially responsible for destroying the Republic and the near extinction for all the Jedis. Oh Jar Jar, you can never do anything wrong by us, isn't that right guys? Make sure to leave a thumbs down if you love Jar Jar. Do you like Revenge of the Sith? And do you like facts? Well, here are 5 Revenge of the Sith facts. Let's begin. At number 5, I've chose one that you may not have heard of. If you remember in the beginning of episode 3, Anakin has a new little mark on his eye. It's his scar. It looked really cool. And when I was a kid, I always wondered what exactly this came from. But as time went on, the comics eventually revealed that it was Asajj Ventress who actually gave him that mark. But it turns out that originally, when George Lucas gave Anakin that scar, the real reason he gave him that scar was because it looked cool. That's it. There was no reason for it, just because it looked cool. And he didn't really think about a way he got it, so he just kind of put it on because it looked cool. And that was it. That was kind of a smaller fact, but still pretty interesting nonetheless. At number 4, I threw this fact in because it's a little interesting one that would have been really cool if it would have actually happened, considering I love Qui-Gon. So if you guys know a little back history about how the Star Wars comes to be and how Yoda is actually able to become one with the Force as well as Obi-Wan, is they learned that ability from Qui-Gon, who once he died actually reached out to Yoda through the Force and showed him how to do that. So in future tense, had Qui-Gon not taught Obi-Wan and Yoda how to be a Force ghost, they wouldn't have been a Force ghost in the later original trilogy. So jumping into this little fact, there was going to be a deleted scene where Liam Neeson was actually going to reprise his role as Qui-Gon as a Force ghost. Now it's unclear if he was actually going to say anything or if it was just going to be like him just showing up and Yoda seeing him, or what we were going to see. I don't know, but it would have been really cool to see this. I would have definitely enjoyed to see a little more Qui-Gon because I love myself some Qui-Gon. At number 3, this is more of an Easter egg, but I still consider it a fact. Yeah, it's still a fact. So what it is, at one shot we actually have Anakin laying down all burnt up with the suit on, but you see there's no mantle on his neck. And then we have the next shot where all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's a mantle on his neck as the helmet comes down on his face. I included this pretty much so then it's one of those things where like you can't unsee it. Now every time you watch this movie, you're gonna see it, so you're welcome. Now these next 2 facts, I actually dug really deep to find them, honestly. I dug like 3 Google search pages deep, you know what I mean? People don't usually go past the first page because it's too scary beyond there, but I went 3 or 4 in to find these facts, so here we are. At number 2, do you know that in the 3rd film, you know how Dooku was killed by Anakin. He got his arms cut off and then he got his head sliced off by Anakin's blade. And the original conception of that entire scene, when Anakin is fighting Count Dooku, not only does he cut off his sword fighting arm, but then he also cuts Dooku's leg and then force pushes him against the metal pillar so hard that the pillar starts to actually begin to fall. Now, of course, Dooku being old and also, you know, his back being broken because of how hard he hit the pillar starts to fall on him. And if you remember, it's kind of like a little parallel between the second film, you know, when Dooku does that to Obi-Wan and Anakin, like he throws the pillar on top of them, but Yoda comes in and saves him at the last second. It's kind of like, it would be like harkening back to that, but instead this time there would be no one to save Dooku. And while Anakin tries at first to hold up the pillar, after of course a little bit of coaching from Palpatine, Anakin then decides just to drop the pillar. Although he could have saved Dooku, he decided to drop the pillar, and then Dooku would actually get crushed by the pillar. Now this scene would be like so much more different, although it would have the same outcome that we actually saw in the actual film. You know, it would still kind of show the same message, but it would also kind of harken back to the actual second film and kind of be like payback towards Dooku. And we all know that Dooku deserved to die. You know, I mean, he was a jerk. He deserved to die. He betrayed the Republic. He deserves it. But when it comes down to it, it would have been more impactful, in my opinion, if it would have been this way. Because I just feel like this seems so much more darker of Anakin. You know, at least like Anakin was more of like with lightsabers. It was kind of the heat of the moment. You know what I mean? Dooku was a bad guy. He slices off his head. You know, he was already missing his arms. Chances are Dooku was going to just die or rot in prison, or, you know, he was going to escape. You know, this type of thing, the way it's written is the fact that Dooku loses an arm, his leg is now, it's not like taken off or anything like that, but it's now wounded, you know, his back is broken, and he's done, you know what I mean? He's next to dead for especially his age, and then instead of Anakin just like accepting his fate as a broken old man, he crushes him. Do you know what I mean? It'd be such an interesting, different way to look at things, although it would have the same effect in the end anyway, so that's just my personal opinion. Would you have liked to see this more? I'm actually curious to hear you guys' opinion in the comments below, so let me know in the comments below. Let's move on to the final, last fact. At number 1 of the original conceptions for General Grievous was actually supposed to be Anakin's father. In some way or another, Grievous was supposed to impact the birth of Anakin. Now, of course, that could either mean that he slept with Anakin's mother and Anakin was born, or that could mean he killed somebody who made this other person have to hide, who then slept with Anakin's mother, and then Anakin was born, you know what I mean? Some way, Grievous was supposed to be responsible for Anakin's conception and birth. But of course, we don't ever know. But it is an interesting fact. It's an interesting idea to think about it. Like, imagine if Grievous was actually Anakin's dad. You know what I mean? Wouldn't that be just so strange? But of course, who knows? He might be, but probably not. So that's it for this list. Let me know in the comments below what other facts I missed. If you have any other ideas for future videos, let me know in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe if you guys enjoy my videos. And until next time, guys, we'll see ya. Peace.